What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me as always is Mr. Brian Schultz. So like I said previously, we thought that was the first thing that came to my mind. It happened. And then Brian says, he has said something. What'd you say? And you say, see, I told you. And this was like in a matter of a day of the announcement. What transpired there, Brian, that led you to believe that this was like, I don't know if this is the real thing.
You need the context, because we first talked about this on one of the shows people love that we had fun with, where there was this rumor that Kathleen Kennedy, longtime head of Lucasfilm, was supposed to step down at a prior event, and then wound up announcing the Daisy Ridley Star Wars film and brought Daisy Ridley on stage, and basically we made fun of that as the Wolf of Wall Street, I'm not leaving. And so when
quintessential,
right? So that so Puck News reported earlier this week that Kathleen Kennedy had informed Disney she intended to finally retire by the end of the year. Now, whether that was wholly her decision or whether she was being pushed, totally unclear, but that came across. So when you texted me that story, I immediately said, watch, she calls it off. So 72 hours later, get Leo ready. We got the story. Kathleen Kennedy, quote, I'm not retiring. She's talking about succession, but she's saying, I'm not really going anywhere. I'm still going to be producing movies. I'm still going to be in the building. I'm not retiring. So this is a awkward transition at best, but it does appear like we are starting the process, but she's still going to be around.
I mean, obviously, if that was the case that she talked about possibly hanging it up, and somebody got wind of that and sort of went crazy with it, and then she's just coming out to be like, let me just set the record straight here situation. I mean, whoever wasn't in the room when she was talking about this, and they got the news just like I did, like everybody who's been just praying for her to leave, felt jubilee. They were skipping to work, and then she just showed up to work like, what? I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. There's something there. We don't know what it is. We may not never know, but she has a tight hold on whomever is there. She's going to leave her way.
Yeah. No, this is why we make the Palpatine comparison, right? It's like we threw that guy down the elevator shaft of the Death Star. He detonated in an explosion of force energy, and then he was still back 3 movies later. I'm telling you, until like she is gone, she is never gone.
Yeah.
And they said even in this version of retirement, the plan includes for her to, quote, produce Star Wars movies for years to come. So how's that really that different than what she's doing right now? That's awkward, man. That's like, so you're going to have a new official head of Lucasfilm, but you're going to have the old head of Lucasfilm saying, what? I got this one. I got that one. Like,
yeah, it's a tough situation.
So this then leads to, though, because she does admit there is a succession plan starting to go into place. Okay, so we speculate on this for a while. What does that actually look like? So if we assume Kathleen Kennedy's still around, sort of, and she's still going to be producing individual movies here and there within the Star Wars universe, but she's no longer going to be the actual head of Lucasfilm, who gets the job? There's 2 obvious names in-house, right? There's 2.
Okay.
And we've talked about
not both. 3?
Well, one is a co, and then the others.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be Filoni, Jon Favreau.
Right. And that's the co.
Or the sole guy or the top guy, Kevin Feige, possibly.
Yep. Yeah.
Whereas right now, man, is still taking a chance on Feige because he has left a bad taste in everyone's mouth with what's been done with the MCU. It's like, why do I want you taking over this? So you can put Hollywood Hulk Hogan up. So you could be the guy to put all these stars in these movies, in these roles. Cause that's what you've been doing. And that's what you've been banking on. Now you're rubbing elbows with all the stars and stuff. You can put them in all your movies. But nobody is really feeling that. Nobody really cares about that. They care about the characters of these stories and the stories themselves. And you're giving us, listen, you were the one that told us that the Marvels was going to be dope. I can't let that go. Ever.
Yeah, you can't take it back.
Nah. I don't know what happens with Star Wars now. All I know is that James Mangold seems to be pushing forward that movie. That's what I'm looking forward to.
No.
That's about it. That story and what that looks like.
The stuff that's, been made, right? So the Mando Grogu movie's happening. It's already done, right? So yeah. I think the Dawn of the Jedi movie is going to happen, but I think the fact that Kennedy's still going to be around makes Kevin Feige a lot less likely as a possibility. Why would he? We could talk about Kevin Feige putting some stains on his legacy in the last few years. He's still one of the most successful producers in the history of Hollywood. But why would you want to be the head of Lucasfilm if Kathleen Kennedy still has the keys to the office and is coming in and out and kind of still involved? That feels contentious to me.
Here's the thing. I don't believe Kathleen Kennedy is not without taste for seeing something possibly that's going to be successful. I think she can collaborate in that regard with something that, again, they're moving forward with this Mangold thing. I think she got pitched and she loved it. And these other things that she's done perhaps didn't really work out. I don't know what was her state of mind or what convinced her about the possibility of some of these movies being successful, like Solo and this. I don't know.
Well, some of that's Bob Iger's fault, right? He was the one who said a Star Wars movie every year. It wasn't her. It was him. Her process has just seemed very chaotic, right? So many projects that get announced never happen. So that's the problem relative to Marvel, is that you just don't sense the organization, right? In theory, Sean Levy's got a movie in progress. In theory, Taika Waititi's got a movie in progress. In theory, there's this Rey movie in progress, but the Rogue Squadron, in theory, there's a lot of Star Wars movies that are supposed to be happening. And then there's the Simon Kinberg, are they going to do Skywalker Saga 10, 11, 12? That's a lot of Star Wars movies, but very few of them seem likely to occur or seem to be having regular progress. So that's where you're just as the studio head, that's your fault. That's your fault.
Well, I think now we're at a point where, you mentioned all these names, that it's possible that she may be looking for some help, right? And somebody to really assist her with making some of these films happen.
But that's what I mean. Assisting her as the head of Lucasfilm, but you're the head of Lucasfilm, that doesn't work. I'm saying so that's what I mean. It's Favreau and Filoni probably seem more likely just because they've worked with her already. They've worked under her umbrella. That being said, it's still a little odd when you're her, one day you're her deputy and the next day you're kind of her boss. And then she's still in the building and you can't really tell her no. Yeah. So and by the way, Favreau and Filoni, we've talked about it. Filoni makes the most sense as the biggest Star Wars geek in the room, but it's not he's automatic. And this will be his first movie, right? Mando Grogu will be the first time we've seen him really go after the big screen. Favreau has the big screen experience, but it's not these guys are, sitting on $20 billion projects that they've put together.
Who's doing Mandalorian?
Favreau's directing it. Filoni wrote it, but I'm saying it's obviously their characters from the small screen going to the big screen.
Okay.
But Dave Filoni's never directed, written, or had any association with a vastly successful big screen adaptation of anything, right? So he's unproven, is my point, so.
Yeah. But I mean, Kathleen Kennedy has been a producer on these films, right? Not a actual filmmaker. So perhaps David Filoni could take that role as hearing out ideas and hearing out possibilities and producing these movies and helping them to reach the finish line in terms of it being released and it be successful.
Well, that's an interesting point because you're talking about Filoni is predominantly a writer and Favreau is predominantly a director. Neither of them is predominantly a producer. And if we're looking for the analog of DC Studios, why do you think Peter Safran's there, right? Because that's not something that James Gunn had expertise in. So it does beg the question of like, if you put Favreau and Filoni in a production role, which is what that would be, and you take them largely off screenwriting and directing, like, is that actually a win for Star Wars? Because to your point, Kennedy, we can rag on her all we want. I mean, her lifetime resume is kind of unassailable, right? I mean, there's a reason she's lasted as long as she has, right? She's a producer on has been co-producer in Indiana Jones. Like, there's a lot of movies that she's been a part of that will live on long after she's gone. So it's not a slam dunk that the candidate is in-house. And if it's not in-house, would they dare bring somebody in from the outside, which is door number 3, to take over Star Wars, given that Star Wars is struggling any way you cut it?
Struggling is not even the word. Struggling, it's just falling out of favor.
Yeah.
Because even what you would consider decent stuff, like, I don't know how well received the
not well received.
Acolyte.
Viewership was poor.
Okay.
Viewership was poor. My kid generally liked it. I generally enjoyed it, but it came and went and never made an impression.
There's the thing, like, and we'll get to Andor in a few, but how many people will care about what you put out other than some interesting stuff? I mean, obviously the Mando Grogu situation has the potential of really showing if Star Wars has any more juice.
Yeah.
Because if that one doesn't go, because you're trying to sell Grogu toys. You're trying to get back in the good graces of Star Wars fans and having people go to the movie theaters to see a Star Wars movie. If that falters miserably, which has the potential of doing, regardless of the success of the TV stuff, this is another situation, Brian, from TV to movie theaters. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
This is the first possibly example of that. TV to movie theaters. Let's see what it brings in at the box office, because it was very popular on TV. So,
but fading. Like, it was super popular, but season 3 was not. We talk about other shows. Like, there was a story the other day about like White Lotus season 3 at HBO. And I'll admit, I've watched some of that show. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but season 3, big step up in ratings from seasons 1 and 2. That's what it's about, right? We know, like, when Netflix brings Stranger Things back and is doing like 2-hour episodes, you don't think people are going to be watching every second of that because they've eventized it? That's the thing, right? You're taking a Mandalorian character and show which is kind of cold or colder than it was when it was introduced, and you're bringing that to the big screen where you need it to be. I don't know what the break even will be, $500 million. Like, it's not a layup. And as much as I've enjoyed the series on the whole, we talked about this previously, if there's no evolution at all in either of those two characters, I don't know that it's going to be that great. Like, if he's just cooing and cawing the whole time again and Mando's still doing the same stuff of talking to the kid and playing with the ball with him, like, I don't know if that's going to work for 2 hours.
It's not for me. Grogu needs to say something. He needs to do something spectacular. He needs to meet people. He needs to be introduced to stuff. This has to really move forward with respect to who these characters are in order for us to give a damn of the future of those two characters and whatever else they attempt to introduce in Star Wars, leading us to whatever else. Because
I agree.
I don't know how much. I don't know if people can get excited. The only thing I'm excited for Star Wars is that James Mangold joint. That's what I care about.
I'm with you. Now, Kathleen Kennedy did drop, of course, because she's Kathleen Kennedy. She talks about these other projects. The most notable of which was this Simon Kinberg trilogy. Quote, "We're absolutely rolling fast and furiously. This has gone exceptionally well. He's going to script as we speak. We'll see something around June. This is the new saga that moves us into the future." End quote.
And this saga is with the Skywalker still?
She doesn't say. That's the rumor, though, is that it's episode 10, 11, and 12, but she doesn't say.
That's that second trilogy. Is it Ryan Johnson or I don't know, whoever's in charge of the latest three. Is it Ryan Johnson?
Well, it was J.J. Abrams did 7 and 9. Ryan Johnson did 8.
Okay. So that trilogy. The fact that it exists is a problem.
Yes, it is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it is.
So
you're trying to build off of that is like drafting the wrong quarterback and then spending all this money to try to put a roster around a guy you can't win with. So if they're trying to do 10, 11, 12, and then building off of Rise of Skywalker, good luck.
I think anything with Rey seemingly looks dead on arrival. I don't know how you can try to get people excited for that. It's hard. It's hard.
I just like whether the characters were good or not individually in that trilogy, I think they're all stained by the fan reaction. I think that you're better off moving away from those, like continue to bring Rey or try to make, amends with John Boyega and Finn, or try to bring back Oscar Isaac. Like, none of those characters made enough of an impression to really warrant that. And it's just dredging up the memories of what made people upset in the first place about that trilogy, I think. So, I hope the new saga leaves it behind. But if it says episode 10, I think it's going to have a real uphill climb to win people back.
But how do you think Kevin Feige, let's say he would be the one in the running to take over? Let's say he's announced as the one to take over. How do you think people will perceive that?
I still think there would be general excitement. I mean, keep in mind that, like,
really,
I do, because look who he's replacing. Like, what is Kathleen? What is her approval rating among Star Wars fans right now? 8?
Yes,
6?
Yeah.
It's not high.
Yeah.
It makes Joe Biden's approval rating on his way out look astronomical. Let me tell you. Okay, so that's why. Even Kevin, in a reduced state from us, who has lived his Marvel rise and now seemingly kind of plateau and slump, I mean, Star Wars fans would kill for some of that right now relative to what they've got, right? So I think they'd still be generally excited if it was Kevin Feige.
You would have your detractors for sure. Want me being one of them.
Yeah, you'd have people raising the concerns of his approach. Like, has he, and also it's like he's a Star Wars, he's a Star Wars fan, admittedly, and he said he loves that. But he was, part of what made him successful in Marvel is he's a Marvel junkie, right? He lived in the comics. His approach and the way he touches Star Wars is different than that. So I don't know. I'm actually curious if it's an outside. I want to know if they have the guts to try to bring someone in from the outside and say, we really need a sergeant in the room who can change the way business is done around Star Wars. I don't know who that would be, but obviously Star Wars culturally is so relevant. There's so many people that would profess to love, the franchise and the IP that I would just be curious if we ever see a name cross who might be interested.
It would be a huge opportunity for anyone to want to take on that role. And I think people would welcome that because it's a huge opportunity. This is not a 6-month deal. This is not a 1-year deal. This is an attempt for several years to bring back to its glory what Star Wars meant for people. And I think the opportunity to do that is one that I think somebody would take up, would want that challenge to try to do.
Yeah, like I can't think of that person off the top of my head, but like the analogy I was thinking of is like, imagine if they could it'd be like, imagine if there's a present day version of like prime Jerry Bruckheimer. Like that would be the kind of person, right? That's somebody who's like a super producer. And at one point at the height of his powers, anything action, anything blockbuster, if you saw Jerry Bruckheimer's lightning bolt at the front of it, you probably pretty much knew you were in for a fun time at the movies. Mm-hmm. Somebody like that who doesn't have like an IP affiliation. I'd be curious if they would dare to have that conversation. Speaking of the one thing in Star Wars that is a given, and we're excited about, except for we were bitching about promotion on the DC side. We're about to complain about promotion on the Star Wars side because they had something great and then they had to go and mess it up with something else.
Why is it like who's listening to music and saying, "Oh, this goes perfect"? Who's doing that, yo? Like, I'm sorry, man. It's like I need to hear your thought process as to why you think this was appropriate. Yeah, there's going to be perhaps some fun, but I'm looking for a compelling story. You're giving me music that brings me nowhere near close to that. It's just like I'm baffled at who's saying yes to this. It's just like who's in charge that saw this and said yes. That's what I need to know.
I don't get it. So there's a trailer for season 2. Visually, the trailer looks incredible.
Yes.
And it looks like there's a lot more large scale set pieces and very cool action. There's a couple of camera shots and perspectives where I was like, yes. Like there's one shot of like a TIE interceptor inside a hangar, like spinning and shooting. And I'm like, this is why Andor is better at Star Wars than anything else Star Wars. But then this is not a rock and roll show. It's a drama. It is serious Star Wars done theatrically and done well with great performers. It's not a rock and roll show. And they give you this ridiculous rock soundtrack. And even the text overlay was so fixated on the critical response to the first season, which was great, but it felt weird. It was like they're telling you like all these critics love this, everyone loved that. And it's like, let the show speak for itself.
Yeah, there's a time and place for that. You can do that some other time. Just give us a dope first trailer for something like this. Instead, you give us
set the mood.
You take us away from where we were, where we wanted to be, where we left. Now it's like, where are we now? What is this?
Yeah,
it's just. I don't know, man. Music is a big part.
It is
getting people into a feeling.
Yeah,
right.
Music is such an underrated part of film in general. Like you can take a great movie and give it a bad soundtrack, and you will not view it as a great movie anymore. And you could take an average movie that has amazing music and beats, and like you will think of it better than you do. Like there are movies out there in recent memory where like you're not even aware of how effective the music is until like you're in it. It's one of the things one of the things I love most about Tenet is that like that soundtrack, that score, which is not really musical, it's much more like audio effects, is super duper cool. Like it is, it's so propulsive for that crazy stuff that Nolan's doing with reverse time and time that like, I cannot imagine that film on mute. It doesn't work without that. And this just felt so like, it felt like a mistake. It felt like somebody went and dubbed the wrong track onto this trailer. And I don't get it. That being said, it looks visually awesome. And we did get the news, which I think is fantastic decision making. So this thing is 12 episodes. It is 4 mini trilogies. Each trilogy is a year. They're dropping each set at once. So you get 3, 3, 3, and 3 over 4 weeks. That is smart.
That is experimenting. That is trying to tell you something without dragging it on in the way that they're doing it. The whole concept of we're dropping 3, each 3 represents a year, all that stuff to think about is what I relish in wanting to see something new and fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But that music just like I would talk to that person like, yo, what was that about, yo? Yeah, like, yo, like, what, why that? Why? Explain to me. Tell me why. Tell me why. I want to know. Like, really, like, yo, whatever he would have told me, I felt this. I would have like, you know what? You felt a lot of things, and none of it. This doesn't have to do anything with you. Did you ask anybody? You just did it. You just went ahead and did it. And who, like, it just, I don't. Who said? It's crazy to me. Like somebody would say yes, approve,
that's it,
and put it out.
Yeah. It's not one person, you know that. I mean, these things are all collective things, right? And they probably tried all these different tracks. How could you come away with that as the consensus?
The wrong people are in the room making decisions. That's all it is. The wrong people are in the room. And I'm sorry if you're watching this and you're one of those people, but it's true. You guys made a mistake. Admit it. Admit it. I'm not the only one saying this, so don't look at me crazy. Everyone who's seen this has had a problem with the music selection for this.
Yep.
You were wrong. Admit it.
Before we leave this topic, we just went through this with another project. Remember the first trailer for Gladiator 2? What happened?
Yeah.
They left
and then
this epic soundtrack from the first movie on the shelf. They gave you some hip hop that nobody liked. And everyone was like, it took me out of the whole feel of it. And they came back in the second trailer, went full dramatic music, but it was like kind of too late.
It's too late already.
Where's De Niro?
You blew it.
Really, man? It's like, yo, why? It's like, it's too late, yo. You ruined the experience, yo. You ruined the experience. Music selection is just a pivotal part of whatever it is you're going to do. And I don't know what goes through your head. I mean, I understand that people have a different ear for stuff, but the wrong people are in the room selecting these pieces to accompany certain pieces of content that don't go together.
Nope.
That don't take me where you want me originally, where you took me, and where I should be going with this.
But this is why, I'm going to turn it to a positive. Music and score were a big part of why the marketing for The Batman was so successful. What they came up with in terms of the Nirvana remix for Something in the Way, and then using the actual score, which wound up being pervasive throughout the film, that was critical. That trailer looks great. That teaser looks great. But that Nirvana remix actually really works in terms of setting this is a new form of Batman. And the song they chose was very tonally consistent with the story and style that Matt Reeves is going to use. Like, there's the opposite of that. Like, there's people in the room who got it and were like, I'm going to use music to propel my message about this particular film.
Take that trailer. Now do something completely different with it in terms of music. And watch how you become way uninterested in this if you change the music. And do something to it that doesn't really fit, and it won't connect. This Andor trailer, the music selection for this didn't fit, and it didn't connect. And what you ended up doing is not necessarily getting people to think, oh, I'm not going to watch this or anything like that. No. But what you did is like put a bad taste in our mouths for if anything that we don't like or any hint of something bad is gonna highlight it even more.
Yep.
Now. because you did this. Because what now is like, what other bad choices are you going to make? You made a bad choice with music here. What else did you think about? There's no question, I think, that the performances of the actors are going to be on that same level. The story, we don't know where it's going to lead. We know that this is the end. So far, with the description of how they're releasing these episodes and what sort of time frame that they happen in, and the release schedule of it, all that is intriguing. But that trailer really puts a damper on. Like, you show that trailer now, it's like ugh. I don't even want to watch this trailer. I watched it once.
I just watched it with the sound off.
I don't think I even finished watching it. I don't think I finished watching that trailer because of the music.
I watched it more than once, but I muted it. I literally muted it every other time because I want to see the visuals, but I don't want to hear that soundtrack. Now, what I'm waiting for is someone on YouTube, I guarantee, is going to remix it, and it's going to be 10 times better. Someone's going to take the video, and they're going to put an actual Star Wars type soundtrack underneath it, and you're going to be like, this is what you should have put out. But
yeah, shame on them, man.
Yeah.
This is the sort of quality control that you sort of question, like, yo, what the hell is going on here? Why? How did this get past? How did this get here? How did this get released? It baffles me. It baffles me. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below, man. Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know what it was, a switcheroo, or let me see what these guys do if I say this. I don't know what's going on there, but it seems to happen almost every opportunity she feels like, let me play with these dudes and say I'm out. And then now it's just crazy, yo. It's just crazy. She's playing with people's emotions over there at Disney. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of what's going on with Star Wars, with that Andor trailer. Did you agree with the music selection for that? I'm pretty sure you guys are going to say there's no one on this earth other than the people who selected this music that say that this was dope. I'll put money on it. I am that confident that you'll get 100 people that weren't them that chose this music to say that music was horrible. Because there's no way you enjoyed that trailer and what you saw previously. If you loved Andor as much as we did, there's no way that you would have loved this trailer because of the music. So let us know in the comment section below what you guys think, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.